Hey everybody, welcome to Shooting the Shit with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. Today's topic is one that I'm sure people are going to enjoy because you get the bitch. What was that? What I enjoy? Let's start that over. Enjoy. Like I've never said that word before. Hey everybody, welcome to Shooting the Shit with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. Today's topic is one that I think a lot of people will enjoy because you get to bitch about something. And people love to bitch. I know I do. So what I'm asking today is, what is the least reliable firearm you've ever owned? You know, I guess you don't have to have owned it. It could just be one you're very familiar with. Maybe it was your dad's or your brother's or whatever. You shot it a lot. And it was just the most unreliable piece of garbage you'd ever shot in your life. Let me know what it is. I'll start us off here. And, you know, there's a lot of things I could say. I've owned a lot of crappy guns. I've owned some old Ivor Johnson revolvers that were bad. I've even owned a Jennings. Although I never shot it, so I can't say it was unreliable, because when I sold it, I've told the story before, I listed it as unfired, and the guy said, well, how do I know it's unfired? If it's unfired, why are you only opening and asking $25? How do I know it's unfired? And I said, because the barrel hasn't exploded. So you know it's unfired. So that's a pretty crappy gun. But I'm going to have to say, and I had a Colt once. I got a Colt 1911, wouldn't go through one round without freezing up every time, jammed every time I put a round through it. It was a lemon, sent it back, got another one. But I'm going to have to say, that aside, the most unreliable gun I've ever had that wasn't just bad out of the box and had to be replaced was a Glock 29. And this is going to be surprising to a lot of people who think Glocks are perfect and never fail. That gun wouldn't get through a magazine, not even close. I don't think it ever went through one magazine. The first one I ever owned was junk. Wouldn't fire. I had to buy another magazine. The third magazine that I bought, it came with two. I bought a third magazine. That one worked a little better. I would sometimes get through most of a magazine before it jammed, instead of jamming every other round like the other ones did, but just never could get that gun to function properly. In fact, I sent it back to Glock. They said they sent it back fixed. I sold it. I ended up subsequently buying several more Glock 29s throughout my life, and those were better, I will have to say. I did have problems with the magazines on the second one I owned, but I bought some aftermarket magazines, and they worked. Well, they were still Glock magazines, and they seemed to work, and I never had another problem again. They were really hard to load. If you filled the magazine all the way, you had to slam that bitch down on the table. You bang it on the table to close it, but it seemed like it would work. So from then on, it started working. But the first one I ever had was the most frustrating, unreliable gun I had ever owned. It was just awful. So that's my answer for the most unreliable gun I've ever owned. It was the first Glock 29 gun, which, by the way, if you don't know, that's the subcompact 10 millimeter. It's compact, but it's, you know, supposed to be like their subcompact 10 millimeter. So that's my answer. Let's go see what anyone else has said over here. Uncle Ed chimed in and says, Springfield 911380. You know, I'd even forgot those existed. There's probably a good reason for that then, I guess. They might not have been very good. G19 made out of non-Glock parts. I did it myself. Well, then I don't know if that counts as a G19. It's kind of a Gucci Glock. Like if you build a Lone Wolf G19 clone, does that count as a G19? But I have, you know, a lot of people do, especially when the Glock clone parts got to be really big. You know, a lot of companies really made a lot of them. There were some companies that were good. Like I always had good luck with Lone Wolf, but there were some companies, anytime I bought a product from them, I just knew I was going to have to either fix it or just accept the fact it didn't work very well. Practical Bacon, that was Mr. Furley that said that. Practical Bacon said, ever shot Friends Keltec PF9? Oh, good God. Couldn't get through a mag without at least 3 failures. Ever owned by Ruger 1022 is picky with ammo and mags. They are picky with ammo and mags, especially the 2245s and the Mark IVs and stuff. Very picky with ammo and mags. Not a lot of room for error because of the size of the round. So, yeah, I can see that. And the Keltec, well, No one expects a Kel-Tec to work, I don't think, unless they're insane. John Heasley, speaking of insane, said Kel-Tec P32. Once again, yeah, I don't know if those count as guns, though. That's the problem with those. What's the problem with mentioning a Kel-Tec and anything that's a gun category? Do they really count as guns? They're kind of like a gun substitute for people who don't want to get a real gun. It's like, I want a gun, but I don't ever want to risk ever hurting anybody. It's kind of like that. You get a Kel-Tec in 9mm and you're set for you're never going to hurt nobody. Edgar Cortez said North American Arms Guardian 32 caliber, 3 misfires out of every 50 rounds. Oh, that's horrible to hear, because I had one. I never shot it a lot, but it was not the most refined gun because it's small and it's not, it's not like a lot of people think the little 32 they make is just like a C-Camp. No, C-Camp is much better made gun. Get the C-Camp, it is better. But the little Guardian was, kind of like a cheaper alternative at the time. C-Camps used to be more expensive than they are now. Now you can get them relatively cheap. The 380 used to be really expensive. Now it's not really any more than the 32. But yeah, the little one from North American Arms is not as good as the C-Camp. Aaron Talks Firearms says Sky 9mm, worst gun I've ever owned. I've heard a lot of bad about those guns. A lot of people, it's not that they're unreliable, it's just that they're very uncomfortable. They don't fit their hands, they bash their fingers, etc. So really, I guess depends on who shoots it, but I've also heard several people say they're not reliable. So excuse me. So I have a hard time recommending them. That's when anyone asks me about them, because you can get them like, I don't know, like $185. Excuse me, choking there. People ask me about them, like, should I get one of these? They're really cheap because you can get them, like I said, like $185. I'm always like, I can't recommend them. I've never owned one, but I can't recommend them because of a lot of the stories I've heard from people. Now, I've heard people say they're awesome, especially for the price, but too many people have said no. Spark 68 said Lorson Engineering L25 25 ACP made from Zamek zinc pot metal, Ring of Fire company in SoCal, making Saturday night specials, bankrupted by 22 lawsuits for blowing up randomly, discharging, etc. Yeah, the Lorsons weren't the best. They're made out of similar stuff like the High Points. They're made out of that zinc alloy, but of course the High Points are bigger and bulkier and actually work. But the little guns that were like that, like the Lorsons and stuff, they were just little hand grenades, is what they were. It's like the little Jennings. I considered it more of a hand grenade than anything else. I think I'd have been safer if someone attacked me if I threw it to them and said, "Shoot me with this." And when it blew up in their face, I could run away. John Mandrick, SIG P320. Oh, that's odd. Mine only goes off when I pull the trigger. Oh, well, that's because you got a defective one. You just need to get one of the ones that goes off on their own. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, it's happening so much that no one's yet managed to get it on video of it actually happening. But it's still happening so much. Gummy Wuzzle. Gummy Wuzzle was a bear, or what is that? Because is that a bear in his icon? Is it a Gummy Wuzzle? Is Gummy Wuzzle a bear? Marlin 3030, my dad bought at Kmart in the 70s. Oh, I wish he would have told me what was wrong with it. I'm betting it, I guess it just jammed a lot. I would like to heard what was wrong with it. 3030 Kmart. That was a problem right there, I think. Although when I was a kid, I loved Kmart. I thought Kmart that was like a mall to me when I was a kid, because I'd never been to a mall. But they opened up a Kmart over in Gallipolis, Ohio. It wasn't even what you'd call a big Kmart. It was, probably, what you would consider like a mini Walmart nowadays. But I thought that was the most awesome store in the world. It had toys and clothes and electronics. And, I mean, it was like a little wonderland for a little poor kid that couldn't afford nothing. Mark Lax said GSG MP5 in 22 long rifle out of battery detonations. Well, that's not good. That's not good at all. And failures to eject. The out of batteries is the worst part about that, I would think. Never was a fan of those GSGs myself. I always told people I thought they felt cheap. But people loved them, I guess. Crazy Pitbull 16 said, should I get a Browning BLR or a Henry Long Ranger? Well, that's not got anything to do with today's topic, but I'm going to say the Henry. John Bologna Jr. said 10 millimeter EAA Witness, full size and compact, sold both. I always considered getting one of those, the EAAs, but I never do. But every time I see them at SHOT Show, they're very intriguing. But then, something keeps me from buying them. Well, mostly that they want me to give them money before they'll give me one. That's what it pisses me off more than anything. When I go to one of the booths at SHOT Show or something, and they tell me I have to give them money before they'll give me a gun. I'm like, don't you know who I think I am? Give me a fucking gun. And they're always like, security. And I have to go. Adam Jacoby. Oh, I did work with CZ. I pestered them till they gave me a pair of blue aluminum grips for the CZ Shadow 2. Just to get me to go away. Adam Jacoby said Desert Eagle 50 AE and full auto Uzi, sold both. Full auto Uzi, was it supposed to be full auto? And the Desert Eagles, well, yeah, they're not reliable. People like to pretend they are. They're a novelty gun. I love when people try to pretend the Desert Eagle's anything more than a novelty. It isn't. It's just not reliable. That gas-driven system on that small, there's a lot of mass being moved to. It's just not a good, reliable gun. Joe B said Kimber Rapide. Oh, that's hard to hear because they're pretty. The Rapides are very cool looking. Every magazine elevation way too high and non-adjustable sights and finish flaked off a lot. Well, I never take anyone saying sights are off as an actual thing, because a lot of times people say sights are off. You stick it in a vise and sights are right on. It's just the way they shoot that affects it. But the finish flaking off ain't good. That ain't good at all. That would bother me. Well, I think you could sandblast the whole thing. It wasn't stainless with black. So you could bead blast it, I guess, but you shouldn't have to do that on a gun that's that expensive. It should hold up a little bit. I've been looking at a GP100, and I'm not sure because I got smallish hands, medium work gloves. That's small. I wear large, and I don't got big hands, and I barely get in a large glove. Of course, I am almost 6'1" and 230 pounds, 220 pounds. So it might be 230 now. I ain't checked in a while. Is the GP100 small hands friendly? Yes, the GP100 is very small hands friendly. In fact, most people who get a GP100 look for grips that are bigger. So I think you'll be fine. Dale Rickety, Mitchell Luger, very unreliable. I had one of those Stoger Lugers that were stainless steel. I liked that one. I wanted that one, but I'm assuming, since this is Dale Rickety, I'm sure it's assuming one of the first Lugers ever made, probably. But, he is 107 years old. Mikey D said Ruger KP90 DC stovepipes cases, 20-foot circle, was just a pain. Guess it was big enough and heavy enough like a brick could throw at things. Well, yeah, they are really big. And I'm not remembering which one the exact KP90 is, but I think I know which series it's from. So you're absolutely right. It's big enough, heavy enough to throw at somebody. Spud Gun said 1916 built Spanish Ruby 32 auto. Well, that's more of a classic that's more of a, antique than a gun. That's like trying to, shoot somebody with your great grandma's teapot or something. I don't know if I would count on it for that, but I guess. Chiappa M9 22 long rifle. I have found that any of those clones like that are in 22, they never are very reliable, because 22 is not a very reliable round to begin with since rimfire. I'd say it's only 85% reliable to begin with, just based on the ammunition. And then when you put it into a gun that has to look like another gun that's kind of big to be that, so they make those really lightweight slides and stuff, the aluminum slides and everything, it's just a recipe for failure. I've never ever bought one because I don't like them. And Gummy Wuzzle, chimed in to clarify what he said earlier. He said the Marlin likes to seize up when it got hot. Well, that's not good. I guess it'd be good our first couple shots, but once it gets hot, that's not good if it don't work when it's hot, because guns get hot. But that looks like that's it for tonight. I want to thank everybody for weighing in. How about you out there in YouTube land? What do you think is the most unreliable handgun you've ever owned, or rifle, whatever, just gun you've ever owned, firearm, I should say? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you want to weigh in on one of these topics live, come to our live chat. We do them every night at 6 p.m., except for Wednesdays like today, when it's at 7 p.m. That is subject to change. This might be the last 7 p.m. when we do. I got to get with Never Enough Ammo. If he'll talk to me now that he's a big shot living up there in the Great White North. But like I said, come on in a live chat. Let us know what you think. Stick around for the open chat afterwards. We'll talk about whatever you want. You can ask whatever questions you want. In fact, that's what we'll be doing next here in a second. So thanks to everybody who weighed in today, everyone who showed up, everyone who participated. I appreciate it. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.